Hey everyone, it's Erica here. I just wanted to say a little something before we go into the newest episode. I know it's been a while since we've posted anything. There's been a couple things adding to that, but the biggest thing has been that my computer that I had for basically 8 years essentially died on me or like was barely functioning for a while. And it took me quite a bit of time to save up enough money to get a new one, but I finally have a new one. Work's also been really, really busy, but things are a bit calm now. We've still been recording. We have lots of episodes recorded. Now that my computer's back up, I'll be editing more and hopefully we'll get back to posting on a regular schedule. Thanks so much for your patience and please enjoy this next episode.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Expecto Podcastium. We are your hosts. This is Erica.
This is Mega.
This is Headcanson Moore, or H&M, or HM.
And I'm Jess.
So today we are doing our film book comparison review episode of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So we're just going to kind of discuss the movie and, compare some stuff that we like or don't like about with regards to how it I don't know how to speak English today. With regards to how it compares to the book. So there might be a little bit of swearing in this. I would say probably of all the films, this one is as close to the book canon as, other ones. So why don't you guys just tell us in general, what do you think of the movie?
For me, similar to the book, this movie was just filled with nostalgia and me bouncing along to all the songs and cooing over how young all the actors looked and speaking along to basically every line. So just all the memories, all the nostalgia, all the heartwarming joy.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Just all of what you just said, Mega. Just looking at the little baby actors, they're so cute. They're little fetuses. Oh, they're so adorable. And I'm not blaming them because they're 11, but the acting was kind of subpar in some of the scenes. But they were babies. It was their first film for most of them. But they were so cute. Oh my god. And yeah, also basically with Mega, just speaking the lines all the time and also just the wonderment. It was such I don't know why, but I find that the very first film, the feast looked so good. Oh my god, I wanted to go to those feasts, and just all the food on it looked fantastic. I don't know, it made me feel like a child again.
I think going off what the other two said, it's a very nostalgic movie. It's a very it's quite a warm feeling movie. It's quite cozy, a lot of it. And obviously they're kids, they're actors. They're a lot of them it's their first role, in a film or anything else. So a lot of them are a little bit wobbly, especially I think Daniel Radcliffe is a little bit wobbly and some of the other actors are, but Rupert Grint's pretty good and so is Tom Felton. So it's a nice warm film. There are some obviously issues with the books and all the rest of it, but as a film itself, I think it actually holds up the kind of magical quote unquote side of the Wizarding World really well. It doesn't. It feels like it's slightly kind of whimsical and a little bit. It's got a really nice atmosphere to it, even if the film itself does kind of drag a little bit at times with the sort of slow pace. It's still quite a nice feeling film. You don't ever feel like it's an unpleasant film to watch. Yeah, I don't have any major issues with the film as such because I watched it when I was a kid. Was terrified by the face jumping out of the book, as I imagine probably quite a lot of other people were. So yeah, it's when you look back on it, it's a nice film to look back on, even though we know obviously there's differences from the book. So yeah.
You guys said it all. I mean, it's a fun film. I mean, you watch it and you just kind of have this magical, glowy feeling. And John Williams' soundtrack just makes the movie. Like I love that soundtrack. It's just, you guys know that. You remember a few episodes ago when my phone alarm went off in the middle of recording, and of course it was the Harry Potter theme song. It's a lot of fun, and the actors, they're so cute, and it's just it's adorable and fun to watch, and like I said, it gives you this warm, fun feeling. One of my favorite scenes, though, it's just so much fun, is in the beginning when Harry's getting all the letters and the Dursleys are like flipping shit, and the one where all the letters come through the fireplace and Harry's just kind of jumping in the air trying to catch one, and he's just got this huge smile on his face. That scene is so like, oh, I love that scene so much. Do you guys remember that?
And the jokes come out of it that, oh, this kind of proves that Harry's not a Ravenclaw because there were so many letters on the floor they could have just picked one up. Isn't that joke so many times?
Yeah, again, Mega, I was just about to say what you did. It's so funny. And then also, like, I think what I didn't notice at the beginning, sorry, at the very beginning of the movie, when Hagrid brings Harry in on Sirius's bike. First of all, we don't know that it's Sirius's bike, which is disappointing. But also, just like he gets so emotional, and like I don't think I really took note of that like the first time I saw the movie, but it's so cute. He just gets so emotional and so like I don't know. Oh, and sorry, I have to say I forgot his name. The guy who plays Professor Dumbledore for the first two films. I think, in my opinion, that he was the better Dumbledore.
Richard
I
Harris.
think he was such a good Dumbledore, and I mean, like rest in peace. He was amazing, and I miss him as Dumbledore, to be honest, because he did such like an excellent job. He was like something about his presence was so comforting and like warm and like inviting, which is how like Dumbledore came across.
Going off of that, I think the more I think about it, well, we can talk about this later, of course, with later movies. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of like the fact that the actor of Dumbledore kind of switched. Of course, rest in peace, and like that was tragic and horrible. But I think it was really interesting that like in the first few movies, when like Dumbledore was still kind of like this almost mysterious grandfatherly figure. Like we had this like grandfatherly, comforting, warm figure to play him, and then later when we learned more about Dumbledore, learned more about like his flaws and the fact that he was human too. His character in the movies also kind of turned into less of like this warm, comforting figure and more of like a complicated figure. But yeah, I definitely agree. I liked him, and I liked first movie Dumbledore better because he was so warm and comforting and grandfatherly. And I think that one good thing they did in this movie is that I feel like all the characters kind of gave the same sort of air as you would expect from them reading the books. Like with Dumbledore, with Snape, with like the first interaction with like Malfoy was still kind of like that same idea. Like I had him on reading the books.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Richard Harris, he was an amazing Dumbledore, and I would have like rest in peace. I would have honestly really loved to see what the movies would have been like if he could have done all of them. I think there's pros and cons to both the Dumbledores, and once we get to Prisoner of Azkaban, we'll probably talk about Michael Gambon more. But Richard Harris, his Dumbledore, I felt like was closest to canon of what I think of with regards to Dumbledore. Yeah, he's so great, and like what you said, Alan Rickman. Oh my God, he is like the best actor. Like honestly, if his character in any of the films, if his character had more lines, was in more scenes, he totally could have been nominated for an Oscar. I think we all agree there, right? he was great. The casting of the adults was freaking incredible. Like, you have all these incredible stars. You have Alan Rickman, Maggie Smith, Richard Harris. I could go on and on and on. And there's one actor that I want to bring up who was so good, even though he's only in one scene, was John Hurt as Ollivander. That scene in Ollivanders, I love that scene so much. He did such a good job, just from like showing Harry the different wands and showing him like his reactions to what happened, and then him telling the story behind the wand. Oh, it's beautiful. He did such a good job.
In regards to what you were saying about sort of the adult actors and sort of inhabiting what you feel reading about the characters, I think there's that fun little story. Apparently, when they were filming the first film, Rupert Grint was doodling on the bit of parchment in front of him during one of the scenes with Snape. And because they were little kids, they were a little bit afraid of Alan Rickman. And Rupert was drawing this sort of really bad caricature of Alan Rickman with like a massive nose and kind of long greasy hair kind of thing. And Alan Rickman took it, and he proudly had, he was really, really proud of it. He signed it. I think he actually still has it. He still had it in his collection up until his death because he thought it was a really, really good drawing. I thought that was a really nice story.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've watched that like little tiny interview so many times, and yeah, basically Alan Rickman made Rupert Grint sign it, and he still had it in his possession until I don't know how long. But it's just so cute because like Alan Rickman obviously was like this kind, like wonderful man, completely different from Snape. But yeah, and then to go off of again like the casting of the adults, I think they were all so perfectly casted. No one could have played Snape the way he did. And then also McGonagall, like iconic. Maggie Smith. I mean, Maggie Smith is an absolute queen, and she nailed that role completely with that like Scottish accent, like just excellent. And then I also liked the way they cast the Dursleys. It was very good. Like she was so I don't know her name. I forget everyone's names. Sorry, but Mrs. Dursley was like the actress is perfect. She was like kind of like tall and like kind of skinny, and they always said that like she had a really long neck so she could spy on the neighbors, and you kind of saw that. And then the same thing with Mr. Dursley. Also, I'm sorry I forgot his name, but also rest in peace for him. He was such an amazing actor. But yeah, he was also perfectly cast as Mr. Dursley.
So for Vernon Dursley, it's Richard Griffiths, rest in peace. And then for Petunia, it's Fiona Shaw. They both did so great. And in this movie, the Dursleys are so hilarious. Just with regards to like all their screaming, like when with Hagrid's dramatic entrance, they're just like freaking out and screaming, and they're so scared of him. It's so funny. Like I always love that scene. They did such a good job of showing how like literally unpleasant these characters are, and they were great.
And speaking of Hagrid, Robbie Coltrane. Yes. Once again, Hagrid, like we were saying in the books, is such like a sweet character, and I love his like bumbling, like breaking down the door. Like Robbie Coltrane played him amazingly.
So yeah, Hagrid's dramatic entrance is always great. One thing I like about this film is this is the best, the closest we get to Hermione's hair as possible. I have so much to talk about with regards to Hermione's hair. When I was younger, I had like this frizzy, poofy disaster of a mess hair that never ever did what I wanted it to do. And so I like how in this one they made her hair super big and poofy. And I can forgive them for the teeth because it made Emma Watson talk funny. But I like how she has the good hair. Not the good hair, but canon hair. The hair that Hermione should have. The only thing that I will criticize mainly with Emma Watson in this film and in all the films is I have this really big problem with Emma Watson's fake crying. It makes me laugh, which is really horrible because in some of the scenes where she's crying, it's actually super emotional, but I can't take it seriously because her fake crying is just like, oh my god, stop it. But otherwise, the kids are great. They're like their acting is kind of like it's kid acting. So it's not going to be like, oh my god, I'm crying. This is amazing acting. It got to that point later on, but they're adorable. They're kid acting, and Tom Felton's Potter. I can't say that properly, but that's iconic. I love the way he says that.
Potter.
Yes, yes, thank you. Tom Felton is like so completely different from Draco. He's such a kind person.
Yeah. Also segueing off that, yeah, I agree. Like I remember watching the movies and I like just immediately had a crush on Tom Felton because he's just so like just so adorable. And also it was normal because when the movies came out, I was the exact same age as them. So it wasn't weird. And again, the way you're right, like the way he said Potter was like just excellent and amazing and iconic.
Training for the ballet, Potter.
Oh my god.
It's
I'm
amazing.
sorry, I love you, but that was so bad.
That has to say.
Okay, it wasn't horrible. That was really cruel. I shouldn't have said it that way. It wasn't horrible. It was.
Yeah, I did put an upper class spin on that, so yeah, it's not it's a bit more posh than Tom Felton's.
Anyone else get chills in that scene where they're on the boats and we see Hogwarts for the first time and there's the music? I just get this like chills going through me and I just smile like with the theme song playing, and it's just the way they did it from like they started like the camera was like above them on the boats and then it moved up and you saw the castle. Oh, it gives you chills. That's like the best castle image.
Oh yeah, it's like that,
yeah.
and also like when they were first going to Diagon Alley for the first time too. That was a fun thing. It's like, welcome to Diagon Alley.
Yeah, definitely. I think Diagon Alley was such a magical and, as HM said earlier, such like a whimsical scene. Like, because again, it's like first of all, you like maybe if you read the books before the movies, like even though you imagined it yourself, it's the first time you're actually like seeing this like world that you imagined, and it must have been like so exciting for the for the children who waited to watch the movie. And it was absolutely fantastic. We didn't see some of the scenes, but like you go into the leaky cauldron, or which one was it? Yeah, you go into the leaky cauldron, and the set was brilliant. It was kind of like dark and like musty and like not like yeah, it was definitely like a what I imagine a British like pub to be, like a kind of like slightly run down one. Um,
Yeah, very
but
accurate. Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure there are like nice pubs, but like it just seems like a run down English pub, and like I don't know, I think it would be like I think it's perfect, and it really has a kind of like gritty, but like yeah, like gritty kind of feeling when you go in, and it was excellent because it just brought you right into the film. And then also then we go forward to meeting Ron and the rest of the Weasleys.
A lovely introduction scene, that.
Yeah, it was good, definitely. Meeting the Weasleys is lots of fun. Oliver and what's the name of the actors who played the twins? It's Oliver.
James and Oliver Phelps.
Yeah, they were great. They did such a good job of like coordinating. You know how the twins finish each other's sentences? They did such a good job of like coordinating that. It probably like definitely them being twins, they're probably already pretty coordinated with each other, but they did such a good job of being the twins in general. I loved them. They were great, like really well cast. And Ron's cute and adorable, and Rupert Grint was awesome. Only thing is, I wish that he was a little bit taller. I think they were hoping for that because I think Rupert Grint's like 2 years older than Emma and Daniel or something like that. He's a little bit older than them. So I think they were kind of hoping for that to be the case. It's not a big deal, but I wish that he was a little bit taller.
Yeah, I also agree. Like, but I mean, I also was hoping he was like a little bit, wishing he was a little bit taller, but that's not exactly something that he can help. So we can't really put that on him. But yeah, Rupert Grint was absolutely fantastic in all of the films. Also, then the thing about the twins, James and Oliver Phelps. I remember there was also like this hilarious interview where this woman interviewed them, and they were like, "Are you guys really twins in real life?" And I mean, obviously, like they are Fred and George basically, and so James and Oliver, they're like, no, we just met on the shoot, and we just had like this instant chemistry, and the interviewer believed them.
I don't. Oh my god! I feel like that was probably more like an act for the kids or something. But it's funny. They are funny, and they're great actors. And you see their acting getting better and better throughout the series too.
Definitely. I remember that interview, Jess. And oh, those two, I love them. I love how much this cast, like, they all, I think, have traits of their characters, and I love that. I think going back to when we were talking about hoping the Rupert Grint was a little bit taller and everything like that. I'm really curious how much the casters thought about, like, they probably knew that they were going to cast these kids for all the movies, if the Harry Potter series as well, of course, the first movie. But I wonder how much they thought about, like, oh, we need to find people who would like grow up to also be something like their characters. Like, I wonder if they like it seems like they looked for they tried to make Rupert Grint a little bit taller. It seems they like looked for someone with bushy brown hair like Hermione. It seems they kind of looked for like the messy black hair of Harry. But like, I think that they were definitely, they didn't turn out to be fully what their characters were.
Although I think Rupert Grint's quite a good. His personality is very, very similar to Ron's in a lot of ways. You know, they're both quite sort of chill dudes. So I don't know. I think it, personality-wise, I think they kind of got the main cause of the characters down fairly well. You know, the Rupert's fairly chill. Dan's kind of a little bit sassy. The Phelps twins are very, very good at that kind of thing. Tom Felton's he can put on this kind of slightly brooding kind of sort of way of acting. So I think it fits quite well. With considering how young they were at the time, they've kind of inhabited those roles quite well.
Yeah, I agree there. Like I think definitely like their appearances match, and that's good. My only main thing with regards to like the way they look matching with canon is Hermione's hair, Ron being taller, and Harry's eyes. Like Daniel Radcliffe has stunning, beautiful, beautiful eyes, but you think of Harry and you think of the green eyes. It's like it's not a big deal, but you know, and I know that they gave him contacts, but he had like an allergic reaction to them. It's not a big deal, but it's just one thing that I wish they could have happened. But other than that, it's like they grew into what they were supposed to look like. But also, like, when they were casting them, I think only like 2 books had come out, or 3, because the movie came out in 2001. So I think I think it might have been 2 or 3 books had come out, so they didn't really know exactly what they would look like. But I think, you know, when you're casting these young kids, knowing that they're going to be in these roles for like 10 years, it's hard to do that exactly. And I think they did a good job of, you know, thinking ahead and thinking of that. So can we talk about the Mirror of Erised scene? Because that scene, oh, I love that scene so much. I think they did a really good job of the Mirror of Erised scene, because it's just, I don't know, Daniel Radcliffe just looks like an adorable kind of sad little puppy that you want to hug. Like that moment where in the mirror his mom, like Lily, puts her hand on his shoulder, and then he goes to like behind him to like grab her hand, but she's not there. I just want to like grab Harry and just hold him forever. Do you know what I mean? Of that sort of need, or that scene was so cute. And I think they casted James and Lily really well. I think the actor who they cast as James looked a fair bit like Daniel Radcliffe at that age. The guy that they cast to play teenage James in Order of the Phoenix, like, what the hell was that? Anyways, I won't get into that. And don't get me started on Lily, but we'll get into that later. What do you guys think of that scene?
I also thought it was a beautiful scene. Brought to mind so many of the emotions that the actual scene in the book brought to mind, with the music and everything. And but I do kind of agree that the actors for Lily and James were good in the similarity sense. But, and this is something that I think I might have mentioned it before as well, but I wish so much that they had been able to cast younger actors for those two, because I think that really emphasizes how tragic James and Lily's death were. They were so young when they died, and I wish so much that, like, that whole generation, all the Marauders, even Snape, maybe, although Alan Rickman is amazing, so that gets a pass. But I wish that they had been younger actors, because, like, they were all so young, and it just adds to the tragedy and, like, the story around them.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, as someone who watched the movies first and then only read the books after, I was so surprised at how young they all were. I didn't realize that, like, James and Lily were like literally only like 20. That's super young. And like the actors don't, as good as they are, they don't look 30. Like, or how old would they have been? Like 31? Like, I mean, I'm sorry, Alan Rickman, absolutely amazing, and still no one else could have played that role, but he doesn't look 31 in like the first movie. But yeah, so I see what you mean there. But then yeah, that scene was also, it was very, very emotional, and I have to say, like, even though some of the times the young actors needed some work, which is again completely forgivable because they were like 11. I think his acting, Daniel Radcliffe's acting, was phenomenal. It was really good, and I really enjoyed that scene. It also, yeah, it made me very emotional. It made me feel what Harry was feeling.
I think it's quite a sort of testament to that scene that it's quite an emotional scene, and it's pretty much verbatim from the book. It's, you know, pretty much all the stuff is there. It's a very, very good adaptation of that scene, and it sort of drives that emotion of kind of, you know, Harry he's a little kid who's, you know, he's never seen his parents before, you know, that he can remember. He hasn't ever seen any photos of them or anything else. This mirror is the first time he's ever actually seen what they look like. And it's not just that, we do also see, you know, that they, from a child's perspective, it's like that's the family that he never had, that he never got the chance to really have, and that was stolen from him. And I think it's from a child's perspective, watching the film, you don't think about it that much. But when you get older, it's like, oh my god, this poor little kid. He's an orphan. He doesn't have any family. It's just it's. I think Daniel Radcliffe carries that very, very well, considering he was only sort of 10, 11 years old at the time. It's just a really, really good scene.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you guys said. And just to let you know, I just looked it up right now. So the actor who played James, his name was Adrian Rollins, and at the time he was like, I think 42, 43. And then the actress who played Lily was Geraldine Somerville, and she was in her like early, I think she was 34, 33. So they are a fair bit older. I think the ages in general of the adults, specifically Lily and James and Snape, they were older, but the actors did such a good job that it's not very jarring in my mind or anything. I cannot picture anyone else playing Snape. Like, I don't think anyone can disagree in the fact that he was the best actor in this series.
Mm.
And then we have our amazing the chess match. Oh my god, that is like my second favorite Rupert Grint scene. The chess match. He's just so confident, and he like knows what he's doing, and he's just, I'll be a knight, and I love that scene. Like, it's one of like the chess match in general from the books is one of Ron's best moments, and it's a rare situation where the films actually are kind to Ron's moments. I said that in a really weird sentence, but you guys know what I mean. The chess match was so great. I love it. And the music, and they did such a good job with that.
I think in general, I liked the way they played that whole going down into the trapdoor, going through all the traps and everything. I liked the way they played it, and the way they kind of emphasized like the friendship that the three had, and like the way they were depending on each other, and the way that like different traps played to different people's strengths, and how ready they were to support each other and be there for each other. I liked that a lot. And you also see like I noticed when we were reading the books that this didn't happen in the books, it only happened in movies, that like when Ron was knocked out during the chess match in the books, Harry and Hermione of course protested, but they like stayed in their spaces. But I kind of liked how in the movie they changed a little bit, where Hermione was about to run to Ron, and then Harry's like, no, stop, we're still playing. But I like that. I like the dynamic a little bit more.
We can thank Chris Columbus for that. He seemed he seemed to be the only director that somewhat respected Ron's character. And
I agree.
I would have loved to see the films if he had been able to stay with it. There's something that I heard, I don't know if it's true, but one of the reasons why he left after the second film was because apparently he was really good friends with Richard Harris, and it was too difficult for him to go on without him. I also know that there's situations with his family, and it's really unfortunate because he seemed like the only director who had the big passion for it. Like, when they were talking about making these films, he contacted Warner Brothers. He reached out. He was like, I want to do this. For all the other directors, I think they had to like be looking for them. So it's Chris Columbus. I wish he could have done all of them. It would have been really interesting to see what would have happened with that.
Yeah, I do agree. I think he was like the best director on all of the movies. And then also, sorry, to go back quite a few scenes, we're gonna have to acknowledge the scene where they like go to the trapdoor for the first time, and then Ron says his iconic line. It's like, "You need to sort out your priorities," and it's just so cute. I mean, and also, yeah, that's pretty rational for like an 11-year-old to think. It's like, yeah, it's like dying is worse than getting expelled.
I think it's one of the few. Yeah, I think it's one of the few times where the films, they added in something that actually made more sense to the characters than some of the stuff they later took out.
One thing that I see that there's the whole situation with Neville in this series is I realized this while we were reading it is in this book Neville's like besides the three of them he's like the main side character. He's in a lot of the scenes and he's kind of like part of the trio in a way. I didn't really put that together the first time I read it, and so it's unfortunate that they cut him out of a lot in the films. But one thing though is like, you know how they cut out Dobby from like all the films basically, and they kind of put Neville as the replacement Dobby for a lot of the situations where Dobby was in. I like how that they utilize Neville in that situation, but it's like a contradicting there. But I wish that Neville could have been more part of this in regards to like the scenes that he was in the books. I wish that he was in the scenes in the film.
I completely forgot what I was about to say.
We were talking about Neville and the scene with where they find Fluffy for the first time. No? Okay, then Jess goes and it'll come back.
No idea. Yeah.
First of all, I don't know why, just when you said Fluffy, it just made me crack up again. This like giant three-headed dog's name is Fluffy. It's so brilliant. And then again, going back, I think just again showing how much I love Rupert, is like the one scene where they see McGonagall transform from a cat into human form for the first time. And like Ron's little line, his little squeaky voice, he's like, "That was bloody brilliant, Professor." And it was so cute and funny, and oh my god, I loved it. I also know that in another interview, Rupert said that he enjoyed saying bloody a lot because he wouldn't have like just perfectly Ron. And I like how real it is how they show like Ron and Harry's confusion in that scene about how they got lost all the time in this giant ass castle.
Yeah, there were a few beautiful scenes where Rupert Grint and Daniel Radcliffe would like have them they both look at each other with like a look of confusion, and every time was absolute gorgeous because those two are amazing. I remember what I was going to say before. Going back to what Jess was saying about Ron's iconic "You need to sort your priorities" line. So, Sorcerer's Stone, the movie, was somewhat important for me too because so my siblings both read Harry Potter, and so like I heard some of these lines before, like the whole like you need to sort your priorities and stop, stop, stop. You're going to take someone's eye out. Like those two lines, especially, like I just knew really, really well. But when I was younger, I didn't understand what they meant. I didn't like think about them. I just like knew the lines. And so the movie, when I watched Sorcerer's Stone for the first time, I think is one of the first time that it actually clicked what they were saying in those lines. I didn't understand like what is Ron talking about? Like what priorities does Hermione need to sort out? Because that line was just like so obvious in my mind. But the movie was the first time I was like, wait a minute, right? Hermione's prioritizing getting expelled over getting killed. That's weird.
I love Ron's line of brilliant but scary. I love how often Ron just calls her brilliant. It's just, oh my god, it's cute. I know that in this movie, there's like it's just not really any Hermione stuff. There's a deleted scene. It's literally like I think 20 seconds where they're like finished with the troll and they're like walking out and then I can't remember exactly what he said to her, but they have this like little smile that's really cute. And I know it's not flirting, it's just my Hermione shipper head being like, oh my god. I love them so much. I think about them so often. It's weird.
Yeah, don't worry about that. I'm completely with you there. Like I find myself like just looking for scenes where I can be like, oh my god, they're so cute together. Um, but yeah, they are so sweet, and I like we all love Hermione so much. So again, we're gonna hear a lot of that. But it was so cute just to see like little babies like flirting, not really actually flirting, just like becoming friends, let's say. Like actually like becoming friends, starting this like cute little friendship bond that just lasts forever. It's like the most adorable thing, and how like after they save Hermione from the troll, how Ron comes to accept Hermione as a friend. He has a little line that I can't. Oh, he says like it's like such a small line, and I think many people miss it in the movies. But he's like, "What are friends for?" And that was like just a little confirming line for Hermione to like realize that she's made these wonderful two friends, and it's so cute, and I love it so. I just love it tremendously.
And right after Ron slash Rupert Grint says that line, Hermione slash Emma Watson has that small little smile that's like almost self-deprecating and like kind of shy and so cute. Ah,
That's the deleted scene that I was talking about before. It's dumb
oh,
that they deleted it. It's like 20
that's so sad.
seconds. But
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's very
that
cute.
was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like speaking about Hermione, just like I've been thinking over all of our episodes and stuff, and I realized that I think that Harry Potter was the first time that me as a little kid saw a romance almost from the very beginning to like kind of the end. This was the first time that like kids and stuff I think saw this like growth of a relationship. Not only a romantic relationship, but also like growing, seeing that friendship grow between all of them, seeing how like Ron and Hermione kind of started out as like almost like butting heads and they became friends and they still butted heads because that's okay. You can still fight with your friends. But like there was still that respect and like you guys were saying, Ron still like complimented Hermione. There was like that like fondness and they were clearly friends in terms of like a romance and like that's such a nice like image to show kids and like people generally, but like that's beautiful to show. Like of course it's not like a perfect relationship. No relationship is perfect, but that makes it even better.
We got to watch them fall in love with each other. That's the part that is so beautiful about their story is like you start so early and you're just like, okay, but every book you see those little steps and you see situations where it's like you see the major hiccups that happen in like Goblet of Fire, but you just see it slowly happen and every hiccup that they have it goes from there and it's like that's the part that this is like it's such a slow burn. You know how people with fan fiction they're like, oh, slow burns. I love slow burns, and I'm just, at being a hardcore Hermione shipper, I'm just like, I read a slow burn for 7 books, so it's like I waited like that scene in Prisoner of Azkaban where Sirius is like, I did my waiting. I made this post on Tumblr where it was like people are saying how like they love Hermione slow burns, and then I'm just like, yeah, slow burns are great, but and then I put the gif of that, and it's just we're totally getting off track here, but I think we could talk about Hermione for hours and hours and hours, but the part that like the thing that makes it so fun to watch is just watching them slowly fall in love with each other and it's even better in the books.
Yeah. I do have to admire the acting again later in the like the later movies. I know we're only talking about the first one, but in the later movies, both Emma and Rupert and Dan clearly stated that what the feelings that they have for each other are purely platonic. And later on, when they had to kiss, like I mean, imagine how awkward that would be, like having to kiss like your sister or having to kiss your brother, and yet they did a decent job of it, and also just throughout the whole series, especially with like Ron and Hermione, the way they did like the flirting scenes. Although I have to give more of the credit to Rupert again. I think it was very good.
to be fair, they didn't really give us all of the cutest little Hermione flirting scenes were completely removed. So the little bit that we did get was nice, but
I'm also a tiny bit salty about this.
I could go on and on about this. Yeah, I think with Philosopher's Stone, it's a comforting movie. It's fun. It's light. There's some little things that one of my biggest pet peeves though is the terrible CGI or animation of the Quidditch. Like the first Quidditch match is like it looks like you're watching a cartoon. There's a specific scene I can't remember there, but it's like the CGI just made me cringe a little bit with that scene, but it got better. Like you look at Philosopher's Stone, and then you look at Deathly Hallows Part 2, and the special effects are like so much better there. And you see it throughout the films, but like definitely Deathly Hallows Part 2 had the most special effects. So
No, yeah, it's definitely really interesting to see how the movies and like the animation and the acting and everything like that, how everything evolved over the course of all the movies, and how it's almost too subtle to detect in every single like movie, but you can see it like over the whole course of it.
So I think we're each just kind of gonna end this on, since this is our first film comparison episode, we're just gonna kind of end it on our general opinions of the film series and the film series in general. So we're not going to go into detail, obviously, because we're going to do that for each book. But for me, like we have said a few times, the movies are good movies. They're fun. They're well made. Acting is good. Music is incredible. But the part that makes it difficult for me to enjoy is the fact that my favorite character is Ron, and almost all of my favorite moments of his were cut or changed. And that's the worst part of it for me. Like I've said a million times, the worst one for me is Deathly Hallows Part 1. And I have some problems with Order of the Phoenix, which is always my opinion with Order of the Phoenix is always opposite of everyone, because a lot of people say that Order of the Phoenix book is their least favorite, and Order of the Phoenix is my second favorite book. And then a lot of people say that Order of the Phoenix is their favorite film, and I think the film is good, but they cut out one of Ron's most vulnerable, saddest character arcs or plots, which is the Weasley's are king thing. Like I'm gonna cry when we get to that in Order of the Phoenix. It's a guarantee right there. But I hate that was cut, because that was one of Ron's, like it also gave a setup almost to some of his behaviors in Half-Blood Prince, because his self-esteem was essentially annihilated in that with the Weasley's Our King song, because he was humiliated in front of his school, and that happened at every single Gryffindor game. But I'm getting into way too much detail here. But that's the difficult part for me, and I so wish that it would have been better. And I still enjoy the films, but every time I go to a part where I know there would have been a really awesome Ron scene, it hurts me a little bit. So the later movies, I'm going to be a lot more judgmental and frustrated with, just because of what I just said. But I think this podcast is about the books, and we're going to focus on that a lot. But the films are also a huge part of the franchise. So covering the films and talking about the films is something that I know people want to hear about. So
yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, Erica, and I completely agree. Kind of bringing it back to the first film, I think it was definitely like the most accurate to the books in all of like the movies. This movie was like the closest to the book. But I still find that they left out so many details, so many things important, so many things important to the plot, and I just, after reading the book, like I can't see the first movie the same as much as I love it. And like, I mean, overall, all the movies are excellent if you don't know that there's a whole book series about it. You know, those movies as just movies are fantastic, but when you compare them to these 7 amazingly written books, you kind of realize that they're nice, but they're nothing compared to the books. And then I really hate how, first of all, like you said, Erica, they left out so many of like Ron's favorite, like so many of like our Ron moments, but they also cut out like whole characters like Peeves, and it was so disappointing, like to see all of these characters just basically written off. And again, we see Neville cut out a lot of the scenes. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, even though they left out all of that stuff, I still enjoy the movie and I still have fun watching it.
Yeah. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that if someone hadn't read the books and watched the movies would be fantastic and amazing. And even if you have read the books and movies, you can still enjoy the movies and the magic and the visualization of all these things and like how some of these actors bring some of your favorite characters to life. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a very different experience watching the movies as someone who knows the books and watching the movies as someone who doesn't. Um, I will say that overall, like there's a lot of controversy in the fandom about like whether the movies were ultimately a good or bad thing just because of how much they've changed the books themselves, because of how the books are still being written while the movies are coming out, and so like there's talk of how like the movies shifted J.K. Rowling's idea of the characters and the story, so and that comes across in the later books. But I think in the end, I would say that I'm happy the movies happened just because of how much it's expanded the fandom. And people like Jess came into the fandom by first watching the movies and then like discovering the books and everything past that. And so overall, although like I think the movies are definitely not 100% positive for the fandom and for the Harry Potter community and everything like that, and like have caused fan wars and all of that, I think overall I'm happy that they happened, and I'm happy that they did find good people to portray so many of the characters. Alan Rickman will forever live in our memories as Snape, as an amazing Snape, and we'll always remember like awesome Maggie Smith and like Robbie Coltrane, and like I cannot look at any of these actors without seeing them in Harry Potter. Like watching Twilight was weird because that is not Edward Cullen, that is Cedric Diggory. That's Cedric Diggory.
Okay, I'm just gonna defend Robert Pattinson here and say anyone who read the Twilight books and knows Edward's character, Robert Pattinson played Edward perfectly.
Oh,
Edward is just a creepy as fuck character, so that's why he seemed creepy, because that's Edward's character. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna get into Twilight because that's a whole nother situation. But
listeners, tell us if you want us to do like spin-off or whatever podcast for like other fandoms and stuff like that.
If we did Twilight, I would have to like reread the books. I read those. That was the first book series that I ever read. I was like a little kid. Well, not a little kid, but I was like a preteen. But the main thing that rocks my world with Twilight is Taylor Lautner in New Moon. I'm not gonna get into the details of that, but He's really hot. That's all I'm. Oh my god, I'm
But
totally.
yeah. Anyway, Harry Potter.
Okay. Let us get back to the point and stop like drooling over Taylor Lautner, as dreamy and beautiful as he may be. Sorry.
Potter's great. The
No,
movies
don't
are
apologize. This is so much fun. Like it's when we just talk like this is awesome and it's totally okay because we can just go on and on and on and like editing it. It's like I listen to it and I'm like, cut that out. I can leave it in, or I can cut it for bloopers. Anyway, we should get back to the film. I was still gonna say something with regards to that. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm having a total brain fart. What's the name of the actress who played Bellatrix?
Oh,
I'm having a brain fart. I know who this is.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Carter, yeah.
With regards to what you said about these actors and only seeing them in these roles, I know what you mean there with Helena Bonham Carter. I watched The Crown, and she was cast as a middle-aged Princess Margaret, and at first when that happened, I was like, oh my god, how on earth am I gonna like not? I can't picture Bellatrix Lestrange as Princess Margaret, but Helena Bonham Carter is such a great actress, and she did such a good job with it that it wasn't a huge deal there. But I totally know what you mean. Some of these actors, it's like I know them as these characters, and like I think there was an interview with Maggie Smith, and Maggie Smith has been in so many incredible movies, and she said that all the kids only know her for Harry Potter though, which makes total sense. But it's like, you know, all of these actors have had incredible roles in other films, but for so many people in our generation, the thing that stands out is Harry Potter, and so that kind of that makes these actors give us a. They held a special place in our hearts because they played these characters that were important to us, even if these roles weren't their biggest roles. It's still a part of our childhood.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think the only thing is
the seagulls agree as well. The seagulls.
I know the seagulls agree with everything that I say.
Yeah, they do. It makes editing for me so much fun. I love it. It's incredible. It's okay.
Yeah, I have to.
The seagulls are honorary hosts now, officially.
I know. They're just like my cheerleaders. They're just like it's so nice. I have my own personal cheerleaders. But yeah, I agree with what you were saying. Alan Rickman will never be anyone. I mean, I know he did all these movies before, like all these other great actors. I think the only two actors who I don't see as like only Harry Potter characters, Maggie Smith and also Helena Bonham Carter, just because she's done so many amazing films. She was in like Les Mis, and she was in oh crap, what's the name of the film? And it was with Johnny Depp, where Sweeney Todd. She was in Sweeney Todd, where she was brilliant. And she was also like the Red Queen in the remake of Alice in Wonderland. She's done all these amazing films that I don't really only see her as Bellatrix, because Helena Bonham Carter is that actress who does so many of these like major roles where these characters are like completely weird and wonderful. And then so that's the one. And then Maggie Smith, I kind of only see her as two people, and that is Professor McGonagall and also the Dowager Countess of Grantham in Downton Abbey, because I watched that show religiously. So I just see it as those two roles. But yeah. And then unfortunately, I do have to leave. So I'm going to love and leave you guys. This was Jess, and I've had so much fun doing this podcast, and I'll see you guys next week.
Bye, Jess.
Bye.
HM also had to go a little while ago. He had to go drink tea. No, seriously, that's the reason. He's that British. He had to leave because his tea was ready.
With what Jess said about the Sweeney Todd movie, so Sweeney Todd, there's this ongoing thing. Basically, Sweeney Todd had like half the cast of Harry Potter in it. So it's like Johnny Depp, who was part of the cast, but it's like, I don't want to get into that right now. And then we had Helena Bonham Carter, we had Alan Rickman, we had Timothy Spall, and then we also had Jamie Campbell Bower, who some people don't know, but he played a young Gellert Grindelwald in Deathly Hallows Part 1 and The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I love him. But there's a lot of jokes about the Sweeney Todd movies of being like I think there's also probably some crossovers in fan fiction, I guess.
Speaking of Jamie Campbell Bower, for some of our listeners who might know Twilight, he's Caius, one of the what they're called, one of like the big fancy one of the Volturi. And then he's also those of you who know Mortal Instruments, he's Jace Wayland in Mortal Instruments. So
wow, we have gone totally off topic here, but this is a fun part of it. I think part of discussing the movies is talking about the actors too, because it goes on and on there, and it's we're comparing and reviewing the movies, and a huge part of the movies is the actors. So those of you who have stuck with us while we went on completely off topic, hope you enjoyed that part. Mega.
Oh, we can take this out, of course. Just something I want to tell you as well about Jamie Campbell Bower. He dated Bonnie Wright for a little while, and they almost got married.
Right, I remember that too. I also love Toby Regbo, who played teenage Dumbledore.
Oh,
and they both reprised their role in Crimes of Grindelwald.
Toby Regbo, I would like, whenever I see him, it's always really odd because I know him from the series Reign, the TV series Reign, and like that's how I know him. And it's always really weird to see him as Dumbledore, because I'm like, that's Francis.
He's also, him as Dumbledore, it's been seen even less than Jamie Campbell Bower, because with Jamie Campbell Bower, we had that scene where he was jumping out the window with the Elder Wand. So he did a little bit more acting. So I know what you mean. I haven't watched Reign. I can't. It's not on like Netflix, at least not in Canada or anything. I want to watch it, but they've had really tiny roles as those characters. But I know that both of them have said that if they want them back, they'll come back. So I really hope that they do come back.
Yeah.
I think that's it for this episode. It's been fun talking about all this. And next episode we're starting Chamber of Secrets. So we're gonna start with the first 2 chapters of Chamber of Secrets. We're gonna talk about them. If you want to read along with us, get prepared. We're excited. Chamber of Secrets is a fun book. We'll do a little intro at the beginning. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. We will see you guys later. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for listening.